I almost think that for women, getting married young and even maybe getting divorced if need be is a better outcome than not being married at all and finding out at a certain age that you really want to be married. Hello, namaste, Auntie Zarna here. So excited to have you for the next episode of Zarna Garg Family Podcast. We have a full house. All 5 of the Gargs are in today. And we are going to be talking about a topic that I know is sure to upset a lot of people one way or another. And the 5 of us don't agree. So right here, we have a lot of upset people. In fact, before we started recording this, everybody was already upset. So I have no idea where this is going to go. It's going to be a little unhinged. Please fasten your seatbelts and let's go. So my daughter...
I just want to let everyone know that prior to the podcast, I was working out for 1 hour at Honors Theory.
Okay, my husband, because he has no other responsibilities towards this podcast, was working out and primping
for
himself.
1 hour, for 1 hour, 60 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So to get started with this podcast, my daughter, who's a college junior, is in the house, Zoya. My son, who is a high school senior, Bridge Garg, is in the house. My other son, who's a middle schooler, Veer Garg, is also in the house. And my husband of 25 years, Wall Street veteran, Shalabh Garg. So let's kick it off. Today's podcast topic is, what is the right age to get married? What is the right age for people to get married? What do we think? Early, late? We were talking about this as a family last night, and my husband and I were talking about this with my daughter, and she was very mad at us. And if you zoom in on her face, she looks mad. You can see it because we don't agree. So, of course, I used to think early is better. I got married just under 22. My husband and I, we were 21, 22 when we got married. We celebrated 25 years this year. I grew up believing that younger was better. I grew up being told if you don't get married by a certain age, you're never going to get married. No guy is going to want you, especially in the brown culture, in the South Asian culture. I grew up believing that if you're over 25 and single, it's over for you. It's over. There's no one out there. That all the men who are over 25 want girls who are 20 or even younger, 18, 19-year-olds. But life is different today. And there are many, many more options for women. There are working options. My daughter herself wants to work. My son has ideas of what he wants to do. And my husband, I honestly don't know what he thinks, but we're going to find out. So,
oh my God, why? How can you say that? Like, you know exactly what I think. I had a friend of mine that I met after a very long time. You know, we went to college together and she got married at 22. And she was like, you know, in hindsight, she would have preferred to have gotten married to the same man, but at an older age, because she thought that women, as they start to work, they mature a lot more than when they are in their early 20s. That was her opinion. Now, I don't agree with that, because my retort to that, to her and to anyone else, would be that, you know, you have kids. I mean, I'm so young and I have kids that are grown up and I can spend time with them. Something that I couldn't have done had I gotten married late, right? So, like, I don't want to be a 60-year-old with a 12-year-old Veer. I would rather be a mid to late 40-year-old with a 12-year-old Veer.
I have a question for Dad. When you were young, Dad, what were you told about marriage? Were you told you need to find a wife as soon as you hit 25? Or were you told you can do whatever you want?
I mean, as you know, rules for men and women were different at my time. And I think they continue to be different today as well. Not a lot has changed in that regard. There's no biological clock that men have to deal with, right? So it does make it easier. The battle around career and life is a lot more intense for young women than it is for young men. It's just, I'm really sorry that is the case and nature had it that way, but that is just how it is. You know, women have to struggle.
Well, the biological clock is not as significant as it used to be, because there are means today that there weren't when you and Mom were getting married, right? Women do freeze their eggs now. There are other ways that women are able to extend the period before they decide to, you know, begin thinking about becoming pregnant. And so modern medicine has changed the landscape at least a little bit and is giving women more time.
I guess that's true. But like, do I want my daughter to have, I would much rather that, you know, you lived a normal sort of progressive life where you had children at the right age and who then grew up and you had the children on your own as opposed to freezing and all of that. So I think it's not just a biological thing, it's also a thing about, growing up with your kids.
So what do you think is the right age?
I think that the right age for women is in the early 20s and for men in the mid to late 20s. Only because of level of maturity difference.
Mom had Veer when
Zarna, why are you smiling?
I'm just listening. I have, I am very open-minded on this topic.
You're not open-minded at all.
I'm just curious because Zoya, for example, mentioned the freezing of the eggs and all that. But as we know, these kids, this generation is extremely holistic, is extremely all about all natural, this, that, and the other thing. They're so holistic, they don't even eat frozen dinners. But they're okay with waiting and freezing their body parts and then defreezing them and creating human beings out of. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm saying, does it not feel a little conflicting? That's all I'm saying. We have to do what we have to do to live our lives. But maybe the answer is then sometimes when mom serves a frozen dinner, it's not the end of the world.
I don't understand how a frozen dinner entered this discussion.
I have no, what is it in court? Contestation relevance? Objection relevance.
Okay, you cannot rule on your own objections.
Oh.
Yes.
Unfortunately, she's the only lawyer in the group of 5, so I don't think you're going to win there.
You can feel free to make an objection, but the rest of us might decide. But anyway, this was a sidetrack. I wasn't smiling, Shalab. I'm keeping a very open mind on this topic and trying to understand.
Dad, quite frankly, if I had to make a decision between marrying somebody for the sake of ensuring an age that makes you happy that I've been married and then can have kids, rather than wait to ensure that I'm starting a life with the right partner, there's no brainer for me. And I feel like today other women have other priorities. Right? There's a state in the world where a lot of women don't even get married and they pursue their careers and they find companionship through their friends. And, if that's the way it's going to be, then sure.
But you do agree that if you fell in love today, you would get married now. You said that you would marry the right partner.
If I fell in love and found somebody that I felt was on a path that complemented mine and therefore warranted building a life with somebody, then yes, I would get married. It's not like I'm trying to protest the system and wait until a certain point to get married. I'm just so anti getting married for the sake of getting married just to race against some biological clock that's working against all of us. And everybody has to make hard decisions about it.
What are you pointing your finger for?
I have something to say about this.
So then just say it.
I'm saying here's the problem with the biological clock that's working against us and all of it. And even though you're not protesting it, the problem is this, the way I see it. If the girl is not married young-ish, there is a real issue of who is interested in the women that are 25, 35, 45. That is a real crisis. You ask any matchmaker will tell you that the women who are 30, 35, 40, they have a much harder time getting men to even consider them. This is a fact also because I was a matchmaker for a hot minute. I know this to be a fact. In fact, the entire matchmaking industry is predicated upon women 35 and up being their clients. They are the ones who pay for these things because they are the ones most in need of finding somebody who's willing to, even consider them. I'm not saying it's right, but this is where...
now the whole thing, the way you're describing it, sounds very kind of male-dominated because the words that you're using, consider, want, and all of that makes it sound like men hold some kind of power.
They do, though. And I'm not saying it's right, once again, but they do hold the power. But on the flip side, what I've seen on the side of the women is that if the women don't get married by a certain age, there are two outcomes that I've seen. One is they're on a super successful or a very content professional path that they're happy about and they're comfortable with their life. And if somebody comes in, great. If somebody doesn't come in, they're fine. And the alternative path is that they are of a certain age, they really want the marriage, but now find themselves in a bind that how to find it, because they just cannot find enough guys that are interested in them at that age, and then you have a crisis. So I don't know. I'm gonna say something that's a hot take. I almost think that for women, getting married young and even maybe getting divorced if need be is a better outcome than not being married at all and finding out at a certain age that you really want to be married.
I think one thing that you're right about is you should just make decisions that make sense in the moment, right? I do think that there are certain people that over optimize their relationships and are like waiting 10 years in this relationship because what if they're not the right person? And sometimes you just have to take a leap. And then if it doesn't work, there are ways to figure that out too. So I do agree with you that you should not wait on somebody that you actually believe in as a viable partner for you just because you're afraid that you might get divorced. So like, I actually think that your take is pretty strong. But the one thing I disagree with, why are you giving me some weird eyes?
Because the take that you just mentioned was also my take.
But I said that your take was strong.
No, you have to say.
Can I just add something to this? Can I add a separate point to this?
Wait, can I finish my point? I just want to finish my one point because I think you're going to actually delve into my point really quickly because I can predict. We've had this conversation so many times that I literally can hear the words coming out of your mouth, and I'm like, let me just tee him up. I'm going to tee you up.
No, I don't think the words that are about to come out of my mouth you can predict, but go ahead.
Bridge, Veer, watch this happen right now. This is some magic. I believe that you and Dad, the one issue I have when the conversation of marriage comes up is you treat it with an act of fear. It's like, what happens if you don't get married by 25? What happens if you don't start thinking about having kids? What happens if whatever? And my understanding of marriage, forgive me for being so American, is you are supposed to actually be interested in a person in some sort of romantic capacity, get married to them, and that is the story. It's not also just this like contractual obligation. It scares me how fear-based this whole decision is when it's supposed to be a beautiful part of life.
You're not going to be able to predict what I'm about to say, but what I have to say is that marriage, age or no age, I do believe that every young woman, including yourself, should be financially independent before she does it, or along the way. I think that in our 25 years together, 20 of those 25 years, as you know, your mom was dependent on me financially. And even as understanding, capable, and nice a husband that I am and was, I probably exercise this power that you don't even realize you're exercising when you have it. And it entirely comes from money. And, you know, in the last several years, as your mother has been making good money and enjoying success, she was always a very confident woman, but her agency around herself is dramatically different. And I don't see why any woman should settle on that. And to be honest, money is the only way to have it, because so long as you're dependent on your dad or your brother or your husband or your son, that agency will just never be there around money. It has to be your money, your career, your control on it, and then everything else can happen around it. Now, were you able to predict this?
Okay. I predicted that because I know you're going to go for the female audience. You know exactly
I'm
what
not
you're
going
doing.
for any audience.
You kids are very naive. Your dad knows exactly how to play to the galleries, as they say in America. He knew what is going to be like, that shall God, keep me safe.
You don't think I truly believe that, given everything we've been through?
No, of course I believe that, but you also like phrase it very like, I was.
I mean, I'm just a very well-spoken man. I mean, what do you want me to do?
Oh my God! Oh, right. No, but I have a question for Bridge and Veer because they are the boys in this group who are like, also have marriage on their mind and horizon and somewhere.
I don't think Veer has marriage on his mind.
No, okay, has an opinion. Veer has an opinion about this.
Okay.
Does it matter to you whether the person you pair up with is making her own money or not?
Yes. I feel like that's an easy answer. Well, it also depends if I'm rich.
Why? Why does it matter to you how much money they're making? Or if they're
Because I don't
making
want to
any
have
money.
to. Because then I may as well just be single. Then what are they providing?
But they can be providing moral support. They can provide
I don't want moral support. Then I'll just get a pet. They have to make money.
All right. So I guess that's Veer's answer. Okay. So for me, I would say to me, it doesn't matter as much if they make money or not. Because I mean, for myself, it matters for me to make money. Like I definitely don't want to be in a relationship and where my partner is making a lot of money and I'm making none and kind of relying on them. So definitely for me, I want to make a lot of money. But for them, as long as they're helping out in some way, like even though you weren't necessarily making money, mom, for 20 years, you were doing a really good job of being a stay-at-home mom, which is in itself a very difficult task. So as long as they're doing something like that, it's fine. But if they were just sitting all day, buying stuff all day, not doing anything, then obviously that's an issue. But I wouldn't really care that much if they were financially independent.
I'm going to ask you a question, Bridge and Veer, that like, again, is going to be a hot take, but I want to know. I know that in India, in an arranged setting, the boys and the mothers of the boys really want a young, inexperienced girl. So basically, they can shape her view of the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They
You
don't
mean
want a
manipulate?
girl. They don't want a girl who's extremely opinionated. They don't want a
Yeah.
girl who's seen too much of the world, and certainly don't want a very independent woman. What do you guys think about that? Like, we can predict what Zoya thinks about that, right? I want to know, what do you guys think?
Okay, well, in terms of like how much I've seen about the world, I'd rather they have a good perspective and understanding of what the world is like and may have their own opinions. But in terms of age, because you brought that up first, I definitely wouldn't want to be with a girl who's over like a certain age. Like there is a certain age where I would not, and until I get to like a farther age, like when I hit 50 years old, I wouldn't want to be with a 20-year-old if I'm 50. That just seems really weird to me. But like as long as I'm under like 32 to 35-ish, I wouldn't want to go for a girl that's 30 years old.
There you go, spoken like a very honest boy.
What would be stress? I mean, you're like 18, so this is not a fair question to ask you, like what stresses you about being with. But I know, because I was a matchmaker for a while, and I spoke with guys like you all the time, like young guys who were like, it's not that we don't like the women, it's not that, but we don't want to be in a situation. The number one thing I heard is, we don't want to be in a situation where we're dating somebody and within a year they're like, now we need to get married and we need to have a baby. Because they feel like at a certain age, that's all the things that come with a family-minded woman, especially. Do you find that to be the case, Zoya, with your friends? Like, what are the girls your age talking about?
Well, obviously college is a great dating pool, right? You're meeting a lot of young people who are doing great work and great things, and the college romance thing is real. I would say that a lot of my friends are really uninspired with how uncommitted 22-year-old guys are, right? On the margin, a young guy is not looking to settle down and to start asking those big picture questions. Whereas I have a lot of female friends who are already planning for their future, thinking about what's ahead, and don't want to waste their time, right? So I obviously do acknowledge, I'm not going to be naive and say I don't understand that men like to go for younger women. At the same time, I would rather be single than settle for some mediocre guy that doesn't make me happy and keeps me from pursuing my dreams just for the sake of being able to say I have a ring on my finger. That is just the worst case scenario. In that case, I may as well give away my agency now.
I have a question. Like based off on all of this. Mom and dad, what age do you want Didi to get married by? Or do you want her to start looking for marriage now?
Pretty much now, I would have thought that if she finds someone now, and I have told her many times, the boy doesn't or should not be the same age as her, as for the reasons that she just described, that, a few level of maturity in girls and boys can be a few years apart at your age. If you're 35, a 35-year-old guy will be equally mature. But while you're 21, a 25, 26-year-old guy will be more mature and more appropriately suited. So, and if she meets a person now, they'll still take a couple of years until she's married, right? Because she's going to date and figure out that the two of them are right for each other. So yeah, I would say, what's the bad time? I mean, she's 21. She's not a child.
Okay, Mom.
I have mixed feelings about this, because I used to be in the camp of find young, get married, but I see so many extremely successful women who didn't go down that road, and I honestly don't know if they had gotten married, if they would be as successful as they become, because the truth is that in my experience, women will bend over backwards to accommodate what the man wants, which inevitably means they are giving up some of their own aspirations, some of their own dreams. And time is a real problem. Like, yes, I have made a comeback into a career and all, but I know firsthand how hard it is. How many millions of women will try and not be able to re-enter the workforce. So is it worth giving up that dream? Like, you see all these famous women out there, super successful, living incredibly independent lives by themselves. For the first time, I'm conflicted. And I do admit that I think marriage has a lot of benefits. I mean, I'm not sure my husband and I have all the benefits because we don't agree on anything. We don't support each other half the time, and all the things that we're supposed to do, we don't do. But there is a real positive benefit to being married and having a life partner who's like a witness to your life and there with you through the thick and thin. But if you would have asked me this question 2-3 years ago, Bridge, I would have said, for me, I wish Zoya gets married before she turns 25. Find somebody in college or like a year or two out, and then make it official and build your life together. But if that move means that Zoya is gonna pay a price in her own career and pay a price in her own personal growth and development, now I'm conflicted. I'm still not like, okay, don't do it at all, but I see a real problem there. Because I come from a generation where I really didn't think I was going to have a big career or anything. I was just happy to have a job, really. But I don't see why you three kids and all the kids watching this cannot have huge careers, make huge things happen. And the truth is that in order to achieve huge things, you need single-minded focus. You cannot be with a partner who's going to make you bend every time they need you to bend. That is a real problem. So now I'm very conflicted, and maybe the move is, Bridge, that you should get married young.
Wait, yes, I have thought about this so much. I think Bridge, this is a great segue to this conversation because I think Bridge is 18 and he's so handsome and everybody thinks he's so perfect. So I think we should get him married. He should have kids. And then I can help raise those kids. And then that can be the solution.
And what makes you think that Bridges to-be wife wants you involved in anywhere from in his
because
family?
Because Bridges' wife and I will be best friends, obviously, because that's part of the story.
Because that's what happens in the
Nobody
in the
ever talks about the sister-in-law. Like, I'm sure the sister-in-law is like
mother-in-law,
cool.
sister-in-law, any kind of in-law never works, ever.
But I have a question.
Go ahead, ask.
Veer and Bridge, let me propose two paths to you, seeing that you guys are a huge part of my life. Would you rather I continue to live my life as a free spirit, independent, chasing my own dreams of a career, happy, and also open to dating people, to meeting people, am on the apps. I am on the apps. It's not like I'm not making an effort and I'm not prioritizing it. And maybe I don't find somebody in the next 3 to 4 years that I'm compatible with and I just wait. Or would you rather I go down the path where that's my number one priority. I am dating. I'm telling you guys every single day about this guy that I met, this hair extension I got to make myself look more beautiful and more attractive to a certain guy, this party that I went so that I could mingle with some really cool, fancy, rich guy. And that's my number one priority. And I meet somebody and I marry somebody in the next year. Which path sounds more appealing for your own sister?
Definitely the first one. Obviously.
Zoya, you just couched the question in a way that the answer became like only that or none other, right? Because there is a middle path where through the process of being on the apps, you meet someone. I mean, it's not that hard to meet someone that you're compatible with and like each other and fall in love and get married and raise a family.
I think it is not as easy as you might think it is, because I think, for example, I'm not saying that it's impossible. Like, I really do hope I meet somebody that I'm compatible with in the next few years. And I am on the apps for a reason, because I am, putting myself out there in the ways that I want to. But I think being with an ambitious woman is a trope as old as time, right? It's like, I'm not going to, sit there and be quiet about my opinions. And I am not the most that in that way, I'm not the most easygoing person to be dating. On top of all of it, I don't even have that much time, right? I'm not the kind of girl that I can sit for 3 hours every single day and hang out. I'm doing a million things and I can probably give you 1 hour a week. People don't usually like dating that girl.
Yeah.
That's right. Right.
Yeah, I agree.
The bridge
I mean,
was like, yeah, that's right. That doesn't sound good. Like, I don't know, Zoya. We may have found the problem with no solution because I don't know what to. I mean, one solution is, I will give you this. One solution is don't have an opinion. Just enjoy life with a guy who's working hard and is respectful towards you and taking care of you. What is so bad about that? The whole of Asia is doing it.
I don't understand what the purpose of her going to a good college is then if she's just going to marry someone. Like just
that
to meet them.
intelligence of keeping her mouth shut.
It's not about keeping your mouth shut. What does it mean, right? Like, here's my thing, is mom's comedy, one thing that really inspires, we get emails about this all the time, that thank God you have an opinion, and thank God we're watching a brown woman on stage say what she actually thinks. It's
But those
refreshing.
people are not married to her, right?
You love that mom has an opinion.
Yes, but like at almost 50 years of age, at 25, I don't know if I would have felt that way.
Listen, I'm not going to change myself for anyone. If somebody likes me exactly how I am, wonderful.
Okay, this is not going to happen, Zarna. Might as well give. I mean, Zarna, I thought on your stage you're getting Ashley and everyone else married one after the other. You
I
kind
know.
of
I mean, no, Shalab, like I'm realizing that there is a problem here.
But guys, you guys aren't even making sense because if I changed who I was to be with somebody, not only would I be putting up this inauthentic front that I wouldn't even be able to keep up with for more than a couple of days. And on top of that, I would have so much resentment toward that person. That resentment builds. It's half the reason so many people are getting divorced is they give themselves up in their marriages and in their relationships. And then midlife, they're like, what was I thinking? Now I'm not even who I was. And then they revert. And then you have this whole like situation. And there's nothing wrong with that. It happens all the time, but it makes no sense even long term.
I just don't understand, like, from our perspective, like, we keep trying to build this family brand, get everyone involved, get everyone to help and, to create this family type situation. But if Didi meets someone and gets married and has kids, she's kind of X'd out of it. There's no way she can marry someone and have kids and still be a part of what we're doing and move at our speed.
I mean, we will live. I mean, her family life and creation of her own life is more important than any business opportunity.
But then that just kills our whole brand. Then we may as well be the Gargs minus Didi.
That's not true at all. The Kardashians marry 8 different people, switch marriages, have new children, have children. In fact, it makes the brand more interesting because family expands. Obviously, we're the unit, but family will continue. You will date somebody. Bravir will have a kid with somebody. Maybe mom will. Well, mom's not doing anything.
But that's also a reality TV show. We're not doing a reality TV show right now.
Look, here's the thing. What Bridge is referencing is a very real truth of the South Asian community. That in a South Asian context, the girl is married and becomes part of the boy's family. We actually physically in the marriage give you away to the husband and his family. There is a thing called Kanya Dan, which means not only do we give you away, but we are actually donating you. Because Dan means donate. As I realize what it is, even I'm laughing. In a Hindu ceremony, there is something called the Kanya Dan, and Dan literally means donate. Please take our person because we're good. We're good without them.
Is that actually a real thing?
Okay, so in that case,
It is a real
marriage was fun, and I'm glad we had this conversation intellectually, but I'm good on that Dunya Bad front. But okay, actually, aside from that though, I do if there was ever a choice, like I prioritize this family more than anything. Why would I be okay with marrying somebody who expects me to now take on their family? I hope that I find somebody that I love their family. That's like a great joy that you love your.
But that's what I'm saying. As you're meeting the person, as you're raising your kids, as you realize there's not enough time, as you're trying to help your kids get through things, as there keep problems arising, there's less time for you to go to the events that we go to. I mean, one of the things our family does really well is our speed and efficiency with everything. We keep going to events and doing new things. I just don't see how you can keep up what we're doing every day working on a new thing when you have so many other problems to worry about. Like the Kardashians, I'm not 100% sure of their family situations. I don't watch the show, but I'm sure that Kim Kardashian is not looking over her kids every day. And I don't know if that's how you want to raise your kids, but as far as I know you, as well as I know you, I doubt that you're the type of person to have someone else raise your kids for weeks while you're helping us.
Bridge, but this whole landscape has completely changed, right? The Kardashians, I'm sure, have hired, they're outsourcing all the things that make sense to outsource. But I'm saying that in that case, if I had kids, I would hire help. I would be,
but would you be okay? Would you okay not seeing your kids for a couple of days? Mom, a lot of the time now, look at mom. We don't see mom for days on ends because she's not in. Is that okay with you? Is that something that's fine with you? As from them as a young age. So when they're born, because remember, if you had kids now, they wouldn't be our age until 18 years from now, right?
Well,
so
I would
when
need
they're
a
5
partner
and 6,
to pick up the slack. I would need a partner who could balance.
So you
with
want
me.
like a stay-at-home dadish?
No, I don't want
like
a stay-at-home dad. I want a partner. When dad and mom were raising us, and mom was a stay-at-home mom, which again, I loved what Bridge said earlier. Mom treated being a stay-at-home mom like it was her own business. The way she runs comedy is the way she raised us. It was not some sort of side, like she did everything she possibly could and still does everything she possibly can. But if I would not have split up the responsibilities the way that mom and dad did. I wouldn't be okay with that. Dad ran the ship financially and mom ran the home like it was a business. And I think that's perfectly respectable, but I would want a partner that would balance responsibilities with me in a bit of a different way. Maybe
what I'm
saying
is when you're not there for I think you're underestimating how difficult it'll be for you to not be at home with your kids for multiple days, especially when they're growing up and going through kindergarten and stuff. I think you're underestimating.
You're
how
right.
long
I think I am, but we will cross that bridge when we get there. I have a lot of faith that my commitment to this family is so strong that I will make sure that everything aligns in a way that even if in the beginning I'm struggling to find the balance, I will make it work. There are countless examples of women who have been able to do it, and there are countless examples to come.
It sounds like now you're arguing in favor of marriage for your age. It's like the tables turn.
No. I understand what she's saying, and I understand what Bridge is saying, and I will point out that this conversation is proof that once you're in America and you have this very American sensibility, the most uncomfortable thing to talk about is who's going to sacrifice what. Because if you, in this group, everybody believes that everything is going to happen for everybody at the same time. The career is going to happen, the marriage is going to happen, the kids are going to raise themselves. And it is a very American thing to believe that this will all happen if we find the right person. And the truth is that in life, there are sacrifices. That is just the bottom line. The question is, what do you want to sacrifice? What sacrifice are you comfortable living with? And what you just don't want to do? Like in the case of your dad and me, there was a very deliberate sacrifice that I made. It wasn't like an accident. There was no other way to raise a family. There was, first of all, no other way to create a family. As an immigrant family, we knew that if we didn't actually birth you guys, we will never have family in America. It would just be him and me alone. Could you imagine? I mean, so we not only had to birth you guys, but actually had to make a decision. How are we going to raise? So Bridget's question is completely valid, that you cannot underestimate. And I know, Zoya, that you are thinking about it. But if only it was so easy that having an understanding partner, this is a crisis. This country, America in particular, is not designed to support working families. But the truth is that no country is. India is not either. Indian women in India, Asian women back home in other countries. This is a constant crisis for everybody. And a big reason that women end up giving whatever it is that they're doing up, because there just is no other way. That is what it is. And if you say the word sacrifice, people in America get triggered, especially your generation.
No, that's completely true. I couldn't agree with you more. I definitely feel like America is a culture of selfishness, right? Where it's like, follow your dreams, follow what you want. In fact, it's so wild that people see us as a family talking about these things, because why aren't you, mom, just focusing on you and not thinking, like, why are you thinking of all of us? And yeah, no, I agree with you entirely. But I would say my firm opinion on this matter, may it be naive, may it be, a decision that I regret later in life and will have to be held accountable for is I am not willing to give up my dreams or pause what I'm working on in order to be with somebody and fall in love. I'm just not willing to give it up. And that's where I stand on the matter.
And Bridge, where do you stand on this? And Veer, where do you stand on this for your own lives? What do you want? Do you boys even think about marriage? Do you even want to get married? Or is it just like, if and when it happens, it will happen?
If and when it happens, it'll happen for
If
sure.
when,
I mean,
same.
obviously I'm not gonna I haven't even entered college yet. There's no reason to think about marriage for me right now. That's the last thing. That's not even close to on my mind.
I think it's also a matter of them having luxuries that I don't have, right? Bridge and Veer have the luxury of time. They have the luxury of being men, and they will be able to they have certain privileges in this regard that I just don't have, which is why, Bridge, when I ask you to let me move in with you and your beautiful wife and kids, you will have to oblige.
At least you're not moving in with us. That's good as well.
Okay, thank you. That is because for a minute there I was worried that everybody and their spouses are going to move back in with us, Kalab, you and me. We are kind of very excited to have a few empty bedrooms in our house. One of them is going to turn into my Zen garden. This has been a riveting episode about what is the right age to get married, because it is confusing, especially for us immigrants, especially for us parents. We all were born and raised to believe early is better. Now there are a lot more options for women. We don't want our girls to give up their careers and give up their, as my husband has stolen my word, agency in their own lives.
I did not steal that word.
I gave you that word on a walk a few weeks ago. It's okay. You can have it now. But that's a word you got from me. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. And we would like to know what you think. What is your life circumstance? What do you think about your kids getting married? What do you think about your own marriages? If you're a man or a boy, particularly, I'm very interested in what the men are thinking about marriage right now, because I'm not sure. Like, the women still talk about it. The men just seem to not even talk about it. Including in this episode, both my boys have very little to add. Why is that? Do you guys not even feel like you need to be married ever? So we want to hear about it. And as we end every episode with a rapid fire round of a segment we have called Good Grade with Gargs, each Garg in this episode assigns an A grade to somebody in this episode who brought the winning moment, the most entertaining educational moment of this episode. And we are going to do a quick round, and then we want to hear from you who you assign the A grade to. Do you agree with our grades? So in this round, who wants to go first?
I'll go. So I'll give my A grade to Veer. It's a topic that's tough for him to participate, but he kept his wits up. He kept his interest up, contributed where he could, listened, more importantly, which is important to do, and generally was a part of the whole discussion.
Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. I want to give my A grade to Dad, because I thought the point that he brought up when he said that no one's going to expect this point about success and everything and women and going down different paths, I thought that was a really strong point, and I just had never considered that.
Okay, thank you, Bridge. I don't agree with it, but okay. All his points come from me, and we all know that. So if you're going to give him the A grade, you may as well give it to me. Okay, Zoya, do you want to go next? Veer, who wants to go next?
I can go next. Do you want to go, Veer?
Yeah, it's up to you. I'm ready. But okay, I'm giving my A grade to Didi. Just because I feel like she's alone in this, so it's kind of like she's fighting the army by herself. I feel like that's kind of stressful. So I'm gonna give my A grade to her.
Well, I mean, we are all on her side and very supportive, exceptionally supportive, some would say. But okay, Veer. Thank you for the shade on your parents. Okay, Zoya, you want to go next?
Yeah, and I don't want to sound preachy at all, but I definitely want to just give the A grade to all women in America and around the world who are watching this and have had to make sacrifices of their own, make this decision for themselves. It is definitely a very real issue, the battle between marriage, career, having kids, the timing of it all. And every woman seems to have their own story of navigating this extremely challenging issue. And I think that any woman's decision to decide in whatever regard is extremely respectable. And I wish that this decision didn't have to be as challenging and it wasn't something we had to have a conversation about, because I think it is really unfair that I have to start thinking about this at a young age. And I know that it would be naive to say that things have completely changed. I'm seeing it change. I definitely think things are different for me than they were for my mom. And I hope that it gets better so that one day if I have a daughter or Bridge and Veer have a daughter, that it's different for her too. So just shout out to all the women.
Okay, today it seems my husband and my daughter are in competition for who's going to win hearts during the podcast. They both decided they're going to come in hot and be like, I'm going to say things that people want to hear. But because that is not my reputation, my grade, my A grade today goes to my son Bridge for very accurately pointing out that his sister is vastly underestimating the gravity of the struggle of having a family and being a working woman. Like for my son, who's 18 and very handsome, to have that perspective of, saying that I'm going to have a supportive spouse and actually being able to live through it are two different things. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We want to hear everything that you guys are thinking. We tried to be as honest as possible in this episode in an effort to open up the conversation between you and your family members, and can't wait to hear what you have to say. So thank you so much for tuning in. Goodbye from the Gargs. Can everybody say bye?
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.